Our story begins with our protagonist, who unexpectedly finds himself reincarnated in a different world. However, this is no ordinary transformation into a superhero. He's become a half-human, half-orc monster. Life becomes especially challenging as he faces ridicule from orc children in the orc village. Despite having the village chief as his father, the fact that his mother is a female knight brings shame to the orc community. The irony deepens when we learn that our hero's name is Orc. The teasing persists even when his mother, the female knight, appears. She attempts to engage with him, asking if he's enjoying time with his friends, but it's evident that Orc is struggling. Frustrated, he reacts rudely to his mother's inquiries, prompting her to remind him of the values she instilled in him. Despite encouragement from his mother to stand up against his bullies, Orc has had enough of the constant ridicule. Reflecting on his reincarnation, he reminisces about the initial joy of feeding from his mother's bosom, but that happiness is now a distant memory. He resents his mother for being human, longing to be a true orc in his new life. His mother's resilience in the face of his rudeness surprises Orc. Instead of being offended, she smiles at him, a reaction he finds unsettling. The scene takes a dramatic turn as she unveils a massive sword and demonstrates her true strength by effortlessly slashing down a tree. She explains that, despite lacking the innate strength of a monster, her training and honed skills have brought her to this impressive level of power. After showcasing her impressive strength, Orc's mother delivers a poignant message to him. She asserts that his current weakness is a result of his reluctance to become stronger. Despite her abilities, she encourages Orc to train with her. However, our hero remains grumpy, insisting that he doesn't need to become stronger. At this moment, Orc recalls his father's words. Although he may not match the strength of a monster, he possesses a considerable advantage over humans. This realization prompts his mother to insist that he shouldn't squander his powers and needs to undergo training. Orc remains shy and uninterested, prompting his mother to playfully inform him that staying weak won't attract cute girls. This revelation shocks him, and he's taken aback by his mother's unexpected enthusiasm. Despite being recognized as the strongest female knight among humans, she seems determined to transform her son into a playboy, much like his father. A flashback takes us to the time Orc's parents first met on the battlefield. His father, a demon lord at war with humans, encountered Orc's mother. Despite her strategies and tactics, she lost the battle. Surprisingly, instead of finishing her off, the demon lord fell in love with her, leading to their eventual union. Returning to the present, Orc's mother candidly discusses her desire for the demon lord's seed, a topic that Orc finds uncomfortable. The situation becomes comical as Orc's mother maintains a smile while urging him to become strong, warning him that he'll only attract ugly women if he remains weak. Our hero, Orc, remains indifferent to the idea of becoming popular and attracting cute girls. Being a reincarnated soul, he's accustomed to the female bodies of the human world rather than the intimidating monsters in his current surroundings. Despite his lack of interest, his mom continues to encourage him, urging him to discover all the cute girls in their world. As they head home, Orc's mother, Miley, reveals that today marks a special occasion that occurs only once every 10 years. They return to find the demon lord, Orc's father, waiting for them. While the demon lord is a bit stern when greeting Orc, his demeanor changes completely when embracing Miley. The special occasion is the tribe chief meeting, where chiefs from the 8 allied tribes gather for a bonding session, following their tradition. This is Orc's first time attending such an event, and he visibly displays nervousness. Miley, on the other hand, is excited about the delicious meal prepared for the night. Despite the festive atmosphere, Orc's attitude remains gloomy. Miley mentions that the chiefs will be bringing their cute daughters to the event, but Orc is uninterested. He disagrees with the Orc tradition that dictates bringing home the women they impregnate to prove themselves. Surprisingly, it's only Orc's dad who still adheres to these rules, going against the current norms of their society. In a heated moment, our hero vents his frustrations, expressing his feelings about his species' traditions. Despite Miley's attempts to soothe him, he remains unswayed, persistently criticizing the customs that he finds objectionable. However, Miley intervenes with a different perspective, explaining that the women in their tradition are not subjected to unwilling impregnation. She finds the use of force in such matters repulsive and emphasizes that her son has much to learn, especially in the realm of romance. Miley delves into a detailed discussion about acts of love, but fortunately, the arrival of guests interrupts before Orc can become more embarrassed. The chiefs appear formidable, yet the demon lord welcomes them without hesitation. Surprisingly, their daughters accompany them, and our hero is taken aback by their charm. Strikingly similar to humans, whether it's the elf girl or the fire fox girl, Orc now finds all of them attractive. This encounter prompts a significant shift in his attitude, causing him to question his previously secluded life that he wants these women to himself, no matter what it takes. Recognizing the change in her son's behavior, Miley responds by suggesting that it would be a great idea for him to get along with the girls. However, as his mind begins to wander, intrusive thoughts take over, and all he can think about is secretly slipping away with the girls to party while the adults engage in their discussion. Regrettably, his dreams stay unrealized as he ends up alone and disheartened by the night's conclusion. None of the girls displayed any interest in him, consistently ignoring him throughout. This leaves Orc feeling extremely distressed. Fortunately, Miley comes to his aid. Orc confides in her about the disappointing night, expecting the girls to dislike him because he was an orc. However, Miley corrects him, revealing that it was actually because he's weak. Our hero, feeling that he might have been better off not knowing about such girls, our hero expresses his disillusionment. However, Miley uplifts his spirits by asserting that their kind possesses a mysterious power to use of his perceived weakness. This power allows orcs to reveal the true essence of a woman. Miley explains that individuals like orcs stand a better chance of winning over these beautiful girls if they enhance their strength. Despite understanding that her descriptive words might lead her son to think less of her, Miley remains unfazed. Our hero finally grasps where he's been falling short and aligns with his mom's perspective. He pledges to become stronger, aiming to win over any woman he desires. Grateful for being an orc, Orc requests his mom's guidance and training to become an ideal man for these girls. He's determined not to settle for orc girls anymore, and Miley takes pride in his decision. Revealing that she is known as the hero of Azure Thunder, she declares her intention to make Orc the strongest male ever. In a comical moment, Orc screams with determination that he will impregnate all those cute girls when he eventually becomes an adult. Now, we find Orc discussing his decision to begin training with Miley to pursue his dream. Miley, overflowing with enthusiasm, plans to kickstart the process right away, even though it's already midnight. Orc, pointing out his exhaustion, dampens her excitement. Disappointed, Miley swiftly produces a remedy to help Orc overcome fatigue. Although hesitant, Orc decides to give it a try. Eager to jump into sword training, he is advised by Miley to focus on building his physique first for strength. She leads him on a 3-hour run to initiate the training, and to Orc's surprise, he doesn't feel tired but notices his body breaking down. Having pushed his limits, Orc is concerned, but Miley remains unfazed. Suddenly, he heals from his weariness, leaving him astonished. Miley then explains the Orc training process, emphasizing the strategy of breaking down the body and letting it heal to enhance tolerance for intense exercises. In Orc's case, time is of the essence, so Miley decides to accelerate the healing process by infusing magic. With her son ready to resume, she declares their plan to continue running for 3 days straight. Despite the challenge, Orc realizes that this process can transform any weakling into a soldier, a method passed down through generations of the Forlan royal family. As Miley insists on depriving Orc of sleep, he begins to question if his mother might be a demon. The duo persist with their training, and Miley introduces special dumplings, a superfood crafted by a great sage, to help Orc maintain his body's water level. The arduous journey continues, and as Orc nears his limit again, Miley surprises him by unleashing her killing intent in the form of a giant monster. Although frightened, Orc's mom reassures him that it's just a display. Allowing him a brief rest, she promises to demonstrate her killing intent once more. Orc is astounded that his mom has been running with him for the past 2 days, dubbing her a monster. Despite finding it peculiar, he acknowledges the undeniable results of his training, feeling significantly stronger. As Orc expresses doubt about his mental stamina, Miley insists that success in training requires testing one's willpower. To intensify the challenge, she proposes doubling their pace for the final day. Our hero, initially hesitant about doubling the pace, receives guidance from Miley on the need to strengthen his spirit for greater power. Following a motivating conversation on determination, Miley encourages Orc to visualize his goals, which inevitably revolve around the cute girls from the gathering. Odd as it may be for a son to draw motivation from such thoughts prompted by his mother, Orc uses this as his driving force in the training. As Orc becomes increasingly excited about his future prospects, he starts shouting lewd phrases during his run, encouraged by Miley. Initially amusing, his enthusiasm takes a peculiar turn, and it becomes evident that Orc is losing himself in his desire to be with beautiful women. His antics catch the attention of his bullies, who are astonished by his sheer willpower. While they wonder if their bullying played a role, Orc remains unfazed, focused on his goal. After enduring what feels like the most tiresome 3 days of his life, Orc completes his training, collapsing to the ground. Miley expresses pride in him for enduring the torture and congratulates him for his efforts. She declares that he has reached the level required to withstand her intense training, a feat that normally takes 3 months but Orc has accomplished in 3 days. Despite the need for rest, Miley informs him that he only has about an hour to refresh himself, setting a tight deadline. Orc, unsure if he can survive such a demanding schedule, expresses his concerns. However, Miley remains confident, advising Orc to let his spirit flow through his body, ensuring that half an hour of sleep will feel like 6 hours. With a deadline looming, sacrifices like these become necessary. Orc drifted into a deep slumber, and Miley faithfully sat beside him, observing as he began to connect with his inner self. Suddenly, his father made an unexpected appearance, discussing Orc's progress with Miley. Surprised by Orc's success in training, Miley attributed it to his exceptional genes. Orc, in a half-asleep state, overheard the conversation, unsure if it was reality or merely a dream. In the midst of the discussion, Orc's father hinted at the possibility of sealing away Orc's immense power, deeming it potentially overwhelming for him. Despite Miley's efforts to reassure and calm Orc, she acknowledged the unpredictability of when his powers might go awry. The irony of a demon lord fearing a child was not lost, as Miley confirmed Orc had inherited his father's formidable strength. The narrative unfolded with the anticipation that Orc would eventually harness these formidable powers, though only time would unveil the truth. Adding to the surprise, the demon lord conversed fluently with Miley, deviating from the Orc language only in their private moments to safeguard his secret. The couple, amidst their conversation, allowed a hint of romance to surface, despite Orc peacefully sleeping beside them. For Orc, grappling with this wealth of information, he could only hope it was all just a dream, given the magnitude of what he was learning. Meanwhile, a carriage made its way toward the Orc village, where a man gazed out, recognizing the village. He informed an elderly companion that Miley was staying there, setting the stage for an intriguing development. Orc stirred from his slumber, only to find himself faced with his energetic mother, Miley, urging him to embark on more training. Surprised by her boundless energy, Orc couldn't help but express his amazement. Miley explained that she had mastered her spirit, enabling her to stay awake for up to 10 days if she desired. Orc, taken aback, struggled to comprehend the extent of his mother's capabilities. Miley, however, reminded him of her past, having fought his father for around 2 weeks on the battlefield, earning her the title of a formidable force. Orc teasingly referred to his mother as a monster, acknowledging her exceptional strength. They stepped out for additional training, with Orc wondering if today's lesson would involve sword fighting. Miley, however, revealed that he needed to meet his new teachers first. Confused, Orc assumed Miley would handle all his classes, but she clarified that while she could teach him everything, it would take too much time. Orc needed to train harder than the average person to achieve his desired level of skill. Miley disclosed that the 3 days of running he had done was merely a preliminary check. Without much time for discussion, a carriage arrived with Orc's new teacher, Helf Landorl. A polite gentleman, Landorl expressed gratitude to Miley for the skills she had imparted to him and vowed to repay the favor by teaching Orc the same. Observing Landorl, Orc realized he was the owner of the kingdom's most popular company, earning him the title of the Merchant God. The fact that such a wealthy individual responded to Miley's request highlighted her influence in the kingdom, leaving Orc contemplating the extent of her impact. The mysterious man who had earlier observed the Orc village from his carriage made a dramatic entrance, revealing his name as Roland. He commented on the transformation of his boss into a wife, unveiling Miley's nickname as the Slaughter Princess. Attempting to be suave, Roland struck a pose and playfully teased Miley, suggesting that Orc would faint if he heard tales of their past. Unamused, Miley labeled Roland a crybaby and warned him not to spill any secrets in front of her son. Feeling the weight of potential repercussions, Roland quickly changed his tone and pledged to teach Orc martial arts, emphasizing his expertise in the field. Orc, recognizing the man as the 3-time consecutive winner of the martial arts championship, Roland Bell, was surprised and wondered about his mother's powerful network. The surprises continued as another man emerged from the carriage, shocking Orc with his coin. Although Orc couldn't quite place the man, it turned out to be the same individual who had conversed with Roland earlier. Despite his stern appearance, the old man smiled at Miley and invited her to return to his castle, addressing her as his granddaughter. Orc, losing all sense of reason, was stunned. Miley insisted on staying in the Orc village, which visibly upset the old man. The unfolding events left Orc questioning the depth of his mother's connections and the complexity of her past. The man, although surprised, is content to witness the joy and well-being of his granddaughter. However, the real shocker comes when we discover that this man is none other than Vorio Forland, the former king of the land. Orc is pleased to meet him, and Vorio promises to impart political wisdom to help Orc become a worthy ruler. Still grappling with the revelation of his royal lineage, Orc gets clarification from Miley, who reveals herself as the former princess of Forland. The gathering comprises Miley's friends and relatives, further perplexing Orc about her decision to leave the royal life for an Orc village. Amidst the confusion, Vorio adds a humorous touch by feeding Orc sweets. Despite the already diverse crowd, someone crucial is missing, someone with a busier schedule than the rest. Orc wonders about this mysterious individual, and Roland heightens the suspense by expressing eagerness to meet this person. Unaware as ever, Orc prepares for the arrival of this significant figure, anticipating yet another imposing presence. To Orc's dismay, the awaited figure turns out to be a slime, and the gravity of the situation becomes apparent as everyone, including Vorio and Miley, bows down to him. Orc senses an overwhelming, potentially destructive power emanating from the slime, leading him to question his very existence. Fortunately, the slime transforms into a man, revealing himself as the renowned great sage, Marlin and Light, whose name is etched in history for advancing human civilization with his wisdom and power. Marlin is Miley's teacher, explaining her submissive demeanor. Miley used a wish granted by Marlin to have him train her son. However, Marlin, skeptical of Orc's potential, decides to assess his power level. After a pause, he acknowledges enough potential to teach Orc, though not something extraordinary. Miley defends her son's skills in sword fighting and spirit, sparking a competition between mother and son. Both Marlin and Miley boast about the prowess of their family members, leaving Orc bewildered. Realizing the futility of such talk, Marlin dismissively insults Orc, calling him an embodiment of lust. Miley takes offense, proud of her son's intentions. Orc, in contrast, just wants the situation to end so he can resume his training. The encounter takes an unexpected turn, adding a layer of complexity to Orc's journey. With everyone now gathered, Miley places her trust in the assembled team to transform Orc into the strongest man in the world. Overwhelmed by the presence of these S-tier teachers, Orc expresses his astonishment. He questions his mother's approach, feeling that she's going overboard. However, Miley defends her decision, emphasizing the need for such an expert team to guide Orc through his training. The stage is set for an extraordinary journey, with Orc reluctantly accepting the challenge and the formidable team ready to shape his destiny. To provide Orc with more context, Miley elaborates on how each skill being taught will aid him in getting close to cute girls and impregnate them with his seed. In a dramatic presentation, she emphasizes the importance of these skills, creating a vivid image for Orc. Despite the unconventional motivation, our hero understands the message and exhibits determination. Eager to acquire these skills, he expresses a strong desire to get his hands on some women, showing a willingness to endure the challenges on his journey to build his harem. Orc is now prepared to embrace the training with a clear goal in mind. He entrusts himself to his teachers, optimistic about the outcome. This decision brings joy to everyone, especially Miley, and they initiate the training process. However, our hero is taken aback when the methods employed include questionable substances, magic, and various forms of cheating. The training sessions turn out to be more grueling than expected, making even hell seem preferable to the harsh experiences Orc undergoes. The underlying message, nonetheless, emphasizes the importance of respecting one's mother and seeking out charming girls. In this world, the choice is between being an Iron Man or appearing weak. Orc's training journey begins with Miley handing him a 4-year schedule meticulously detailing every second of his life. To make things more challenging, Marlin designates certain training days in a time rift, where time moves much slower than in the outside world. 1 day equals 20 days. Roland, taking the lead in Orc's first class, focuses on training his spirit. This day happens to be in a time rift. Despite the daunting task Miley assigns to Roland, he expresses that the training she desires for Orc would take 5 years, not 20 days. Miley grants Roland full autonomy to achieve the goal, assuring him that Orc won't die midway due to a special gift. They share jokes, creating a sense of concern for Orc. Marlin, indifferent to the situation, opens the time rift, and Roland, preferring to be called Sensei, begins the session. He leads Orc through the rift, where they find an hourglass that measures time in this unique realm. As Roland gets ready, he reflects on how he and Miley had joined forces to face an overpowering beast in the past, but the creature proved too strong, and Roland emerged as the victor. Orc is puzzled until Roland reveals that the monster he mentioned is Orc's own father. This revelation highlights the immense power of the Demon Lord, surpassing all others in the kingdom. Concerned about food, Orc learns from Roland that he can last 20 days without it. As they shift focus to training, Roland asks Orc about his thoughts on spirit. Orc mentions his mom believes he has a lot of it. Intrigued, Roland attempts to sense Orc's spirit by placing his hand on him, resulting in a surge of energy that pushes Orc away. Curious about this energy, Orc inquires, only to be told it was a small amount of spirit energy. Roland then declares his intent to use a deadly move known for killing anyone facing it. Despite refraining, he feels confident using it on Orc, assuring him not to die. Roland delivers a spirit blast that tears through Orc's body, creating an intense scene. Surviving the blast, Orc is told to calm down as Roland explains he aimed for a sensation close to death to awaken Orc's true spirit energy. Roland emphasizes that awakening Orc's spirit won't be easy, warning that he may actually die if he doesn't fight back. Orc expresses feeling close to passing away, but Roland encourages him, stating he'll learn in 20 days what others take 5 years to master. Roland urges Orc to stake his life on this journey and make his mom proud. Realizing that Roland won't assist him, Orc must find a way to survive the intense training on his own. After pondering, he discovers that the thought of cute girls motivates him, prompting him to refuse death and awaken his true energy. With a mission to conquer pretty girls, Orc unleashes his spirit to heal the hole in his body. The unique power feels surreal, but he manages to stand again. Roland is amazed at Orc's success, congratulating him on learning in 5 minutes what would typically take 3 years. Despite healing his wounds, Orc remains fatigued, prompting Roland to offer a special potion from Marlin. Now in tune with his spirit energy, Orc learns that the next 20 days will be dedicated to mastering how to gather and use this power in battle. Eager to learn his next lesson, Orc asks Roland how to gather the newfound power within him. Roland, however, explains that it's a personal journey and Orc needs to discover it through trial and error. Not meant to be harsh, it's just that these processes vary for each individual. Roland advises Orc to take it easy due to the blood loss but warns against laziness, playfully threatening to beat him up. Motivated and determined, Orc starts to tap into his inner powers, releasing a burst of energy. Roland is astonished at how quickly Orc has grasped so much about spirit energy. It dawns on him that Miley wasn't merely boasting about her son out of maternal pride. Orc indeed possesses remarkable potential. Roland even finds himself slightly envious of the untapped capabilities Orc holds. Time elapses, and Orc successfully endures the entire training session with Roland. Upon returning to the real world, Miley awaits him and notices a significant improvement in his strength. Impressed by her son's progress, she urges Orc to demonstrate his spirit energy. While he provides a glimpse of his advancement, he believes there's room for improvement. Miley wonders if Roland's training is responsible for Orc's progress, but the martial arts king admits that it was Orc who made everything appear easy. Satisfied with this response, Miley decides to reorganize the schedule, allocating slots for both physical and mental training. To aid in recovery, she grants Orc 1.5 hours of beauty sleep, a prospect that terrifies him. However, Miley is serious about the new schedule and its demands. The mother desires her son to engage in harmful behavior towards women at an early age, assuming strength alone will suffice. However, her son holds the belief that physical strength, rather than education, is the key to such actions. Miley intervenes, stressing the significance of being a gentleman. The ultimate aim is not merely to impregnate a woman but to ensure her and her child's happiness. This revelation prompts Orc to reconsider his path, understanding the importance of not becoming a negative influence. He expresses a willingness to make the necessary effort to improve himself, a decision that also uplifts Miley. Our hero intensifies his training schedule, making it even more rigorous. Now, the focus shifts to the former King Vorio, who educates Orc on history and related subjects. Vorio challenges Orc by taking him to a bookstore and instructing him to memorize everything within a mere 2 days. Orc finds this demand overwhelming, leading to a heated argument with his great-grandfather. However, Miley intervenes, emphasizing the importance of completing this seemingly basic task for further training. Facing the daunting challenge, Orc's defiance is met with a stern consequence. Miley threatens him with a splay, an ominous consequence that remains unclear to him. Fortunately, Marlin enters the scene, offering Orc a potion to enhance focus and learning. Marlin reassures him that even if he were to perish during his studies, he could still be revived. Although this is not particularly comforting, Orc reluctantly begins the demanding task ahead. The learning process proves successful for our hero, sparking genuine interest in certain subjects. However, the real challenge lies in the final exam, where Orc must act as a representative of the king and bring together the people of a chaotic small country. The stakes are high, with the potential for thousands of lives hanging in the balance. Undeterred by the immense pressure, Orc rises to the occasion and successfully accomplishes the task. Yet, the trials don't end there. Orc faces another formidable challenge from Landorl, who instructs him on economics. This course requires not only absorbing a multitude of concepts but also launching a business with limited resources and generating a significant profit within 3 months. The intensity of this final exam matches that of the initial one, but Orc rises above the difficulty and excels, passing with flying colors. The real challenge comes from Marlin's classes, which delve into the intricate realm of magic. The spells taught by Marlin carry a significant risk, as some could result in death if not executed precisely. Orc, feeling like a lab rat due to Marlin's assurance of resurrection, navigates through the difficulties of these classes, managing to persevere despite the perilous nature of the spells. On a different front, Miley conducts sword fighting classes with an entirely distinct atmosphere. Her unconventional approach involves orchestrating scenarios where Orc faces near-death experiences repeatedly, up to 10,000 times, without actually succumbing to death. Miley's unsettling enthusiasm, as she speaks of these grim scenarios with a smile, reflects her unique personality. Though challenging for Orc, he understands that enduring this extreme training is essential to achieving his goal of becoming the strongest man on the planet. Despite the unorthodox methods, Orc acknowledges his growth under the guidance of his teachers. He recognizes the positive transformation within himself and perseveres through the challenging regimen. The passage of time is marked by days and months of rigorous training, and before he realizes it, 4 years have elapsed. Now a grown man, Orc has secured the approval of all his teachers and decides to embark on a journey, leaving the Orc village to fulfill his destiny as a true leader. Accompanying him is his father, who recognizes the significance of this new phase in Orc's life. An exchange of glances between them prompts the Demon Lord to invite his son to follow him, signaling that it's time for Orc to learn something new. They arrive at a holy place, where Orc is surprised to find both his parents dressed formally. Confused, he seeks clarification, prompting Miley to finally disclose the secret she's been keeping. The Demon Lord, too, decides to share his revelation. Tired of speaking in his monster language, he switches to a more familiar tone, creating a humorous scene between father and son as Orc realizes his father can speak like a normal person. As the revelations unfold, Orc learns that his seemingly unreal dreams were, in fact, memories from a past life. His shock deepens when his dad confesses to being the Demon Lord in his previous life, hiding his true identity after retirement. To add another layer of surprise, the Demon Lord transforms into a remarkably handsome man, leaving Orc struggling to process the overwhelming information. Despite the shock, Orc must continue listening to his father's revelations. Our hero discovers that his village is unique among Orc communities, boasting a diverse range of Orc types. What sets him apart is the remarkably effective method of his breeding. He inherits only the superior traits from his parents in his genetic makeup. Although his dad, an EVOL Orc, insists they have the best genes, our hero remains skeptical. The revelation unfolds as his dad explains that EVOL Orcs must mate with other tribes to avoid the risk of their children being born without these superior traits. The ancestors of Orc's father deliberately avoided producing offspring stronger than themselves, having already reached their peak. Most children born to them either perished before adulthood or unleashed uncontrollable rampages. This fear of producing powerful but unstable offspring was shared by Miley, who cared deeply for Orc. The EVOL Orcs prioritized preservation over the pursuit of power. Despite these explanations, Orc struggles to comprehend, given his father's undeniable strength. His dad concedes, revealing the initial plan was for him to marry within the same tribe. However, he fell in love with Miley and chose to have a child with her, deviating from the original plan. Proud of their decision, the couple expresses their affection with a kiss, a display that doesn't sit well with Orc. He remains baffled by the idea of being born weak despite his strong parents mating. His father reveals that he holds the title of the strongest individual in history, possessing the superior traits from both his father and mother. A significant event from Orc's past comes to light. During his 5th birthday, he went on a rampage, creating a massive hole in a forest. It took an entire army of demon lords to subdue him, and Marlin had to use his magic to seal Orc's EVOL Orc powers. Strangely, Orc has no memory of this incident, and it remains a blurry recollection. His parents, cutting to the chase, inform him that Marlin will give him his final lesson today, focusing on how to undo the seal placed on him as a child. Orc is visibly shocked and questions the wisdom of such an action. His mother reassures him, stating that all the rigorous training he underwent was to prepare him for this moment. The intense training was essential for him to gain control over the immense power residing within him. Orc realizes that Miley's insistence on training him was an expression of love and concern for her child. Even though there's a high risk of Orc losing control and going on a rampage again, she is willing to take that chance, believing that he will return with the power of love. However, Orc remains skeptical, expressing disbelief in the power of love, leading to an awkward silence between them. Empowered by his parents' revelations, Orc embraces the ownership of his potent abilities. Despite the uncertainties and potential risks, he expresses happiness in inheriting both his dad's and mom's powers. This revelation overwhelms Miley with emotion, and she tears up. Awkwardly, Orc attempts to comfort her, recognizing the depth of his mom's love. As the family moment settles, an unexpected force intrudes upon the room, disrupting the emotional atmosphere. Orc is perplexed, witnessing the manifestation of teleportation magic, an exceptionally high-class form of magic. Puzzled, he wonders who could be behind this, only to be surprised by the appearance of a cute girl. She congratulates Orc and reveals that he has been chosen to receive the power of the Fairy King. In an instant, a mark proving his inheritance materializes on the back of his palm, leaving everyone in the room in confusion. The fairy girl takes a closer look at Orc, realizing that she's meant to be his new guide. However, her initial shock and disdain kick in when she recognizes him as an Orc. She questions the wisdom of the Fairy King, believing it's absurd to grant such immense power to an Orc. Orc, unfazed by her judgment, finds her intrusion obnoxious and dismisses her as talking nonsense. However, his attitude takes a sudden shift when he notices the fairy girl's attractive physique. He boldly comments on it, leading to a humorous exchange between them. Despite Orc's cheeky remarks, Miley is pleased that her son is showing an interest in women, even if they happen to be tiny fairies. After some playful banter, Orc decides to cut to the chase and asks the fairy girl about the mark on his hand. She takes a deep breath and reveals that Orc has been chosen by the Fairy King to be a hero. The revelation sets the stage for a new chapter in Orc's life as he grapples with the responsibilities and adventures that come with this unexpected designation. Initially bewildered by the revelation, Orc struggles to come to terms with the idea of being a hero. The fairy girl attempts to ease him into his new role, but Orc quickly decides that being a hero is too much trouble, expressing his desire to return the bestowed power. This statement prompts an unusual reaction from the fairy girl. Initially calm, she eventually starts pulling her hair in frustration, finding it incredulous that only an Orc would reject such an opportunity. Most people would have embraced this chance with enthusiasm, but Orc, even as a reincarnation, is far from conventional. He bluntly states his disinterest in the fairy power and dismisses the fairy girl due to her size, citing the impracticality of her being unable to bear children. This remark angers the fairy girl, leading her to mock Orc by calling him a shady animal. In response, Orc defends himself, pointing out that his friends, who used to bully him, have grown into good men and become close friends. In a surprising twist, Orc reflects on recent interactions with his former bullies, highlighting their transformation into genuinely supportive friends. This revelation adds a layer of complexity to Orc's character and sets the stage for potential growth and camaraderie in the face of newfound challenges. In a flashback, Orc's former bullies inquire about his plans, to which he responds that he's going to look for women. The flashback reveals the surprising reason for their previous bullying. They were envious of Orc due to the exceptional beauty of his mother, Miley. However, they lacked the courage to admit their jealousy and even requested Orc to help them find women. Returning to the present, Orc reflects on the irony that his friends are just as shady as he is, leading him to abandon any attempt to argue with the fairy girl. Persistently, Orc asks once again if he can return the Fairy King's power, but the fairy girl denies the possibility, explaining that he has been chosen forever. However, she clarifies that there is no obligation for him to fight monsters on demand. Orc can use the powers at his discretion, choosing to confront those who annoy the Fairy King whenever he wishes. Still perplexed, Orc seeks further clarification, prompting the fairy girl to explain that he has the freedom to decide whether to fight the enemies of the Fairy King or not. It's not an obligation, and Miley reveals that she was the previous chosen one, fighting for the Fairy King out of her own free will. Now, Orc is granted the same freedom to make his own choices regarding his newfound role as the chosen hero. The fairy girl carefully examines our hero's powers and is utterly shocked. Surprisingly, he not only possesses the inherent strength of a hero but also boasts double the abilities, courtesy of the Fairy King. To the fairy girl's disbelief, Miley, the mastermind behind the plan, discusses the matter casually, prompting a scolding for her recklessness. However, Miley remains unfazed, wearing a constant smile. Soon, Orc senses an unfamiliar power stirring within him, reminiscent of when the mark first appeared on his hands. Intrigued, he decides to test it. Delving into his spirit, he pinpoints the Fairy King's powers, placing his other hand on it to acquire another mark. The fairy girl is in awe, while Miley expresses pride in her son's actions. Contemplating naming his marks, our hero is cautioned by the fairy girl that only one mark is permitted per person. Undeterred, he interrupts her, feeling a surge of power within him. It dawns on him that there's a distinction between his own power and the power bestowed upon a hero. Suddenly, a multitude of fairies gathers around Orc, leaving him in awe of the enchanting spectacle before him. It's an extraordinary occurrence, as usually, attracting such a gathering requires a rigorous ritual. However, in Orc's case, the fairies have sought him out, urging him to wield their powers. Witnessing this, the fairy girl loses hope and wishes for doom upon the world. Miley attempts to pacify her, but she attributes her distress to marrying an Orc. Orc, content with the lack of responsibilities bestowed upon him as a hero, suggests that the fairy girl can leave. Her departure only intensifies her irritation, although she vows to monitor him and report to her seniors. Before flying away, she amusingly mentions needing juice, capturing Orc's fascination. Miley, thrilled that her son has been chosen as a hero, expresses her pride in him. Meanwhile, Orc, contemplating the marks on his hands, ponders the true meaning of a hero's power. In a moment of realization, he perceives a brief connection with his sealed powers. Now armed with the knowledge of all his hidden truths, Orc seeks out Marlin for his final lesson. Finding his sensei atop a cliff, Orc requests Marlin to guide him through what needs to be done. Noticing that the chosen location is far from any village, Orc speculates that it's to prevent potential damage in case he loses control. Marlin nods in agreement, acknowledging the immense power lurking within Orc. Marlin presents our hero with two options. The first is to learn about the seal and coexist with his power. The second is to enhance the seal further and completely forget about it, as Marlin has devised a new sealing potion. Despite the tempting alternative, Orc expresses a desire to understand the seal and embrace the formidable power within him. Marlin questions Orc's intentions, to which Orc responds that his power is an integral part of who he is, and he must honor his ancestors by learning to live with it. Satisfied with this answer, Marlin agrees to teach Orc everything about the seal he placed on him. Our hero breezes through the lessons, having spent 4 years preparing for this crucial moment. He attentively absorbs Marlin's teachings, ensuring he learns not only about the seal but also how to seal his powers himself in case things ever spiral out of control. With all the knowledge imparted, it's time to put Orc to the ultimate test. Marlin challenges him to unleash his powers in an open area to assess his control. It's revealed that the sealing process consists of 3 stages, and opening each seal makes it progressively harder to close the entire thing. Tensions rise as Orc, confident in his abilities, initiates the sequence by breaking the first seal. The moment is intense, with a surge of energy as the seal, in the form of a lock, shatters under Orc's power. Suddenly, Orc undergoes a transformation, turning into a giant monster and losing control. He charges aimlessly at Marlin, who skillfully dodges the erratic attacks. It becomes evident that Orc is only utilizing 20% of his powers, leaving Marlin disgusted at how easily his pupil has lost control. In a fit of rage, Marlin knocks down Orc, scolding him for being a useless student. This harsh rebuke pierces Orc's emotional defenses, causing him to reflect on the precious memories he built with his family and teachers over the past 4 years. In this moment of vulnerability, Orc recalls the faces of his mom and teachers, which serves as a grounding force. This reflection helps him regain composure, reconnect with his true self, and remember his ultimate goal. With the mental image of his loved ones in mind, Orc manages to transform back into his human form, putting an end to the chaotic episode. Relieved to be back in control, both Orc and Marlin recognize that it's time to seal Orc's powers once again. Even at 20% capacity, the unleashed power proved too overwhelming for Orc to handle. This prompts Orc to contemplate his true potential, realizing that his previous training barely scratched the surface of what he has inherited. Fortunately, Orc has the ability to seal his powers independently, but he decides not to push his limits. After a brief conversation with Marlin, Orc receives a wand as a symbol of completing his training. Marlin leaves to enjoy dinner with his daughters, transforming into a slime for a swift departure. Proud of Orc as his best disciple, Marlin expresses his gratitude to all his teachers for their efforts in his training. Orc, in turn, expresses his thanks to each of his teachers, bidding them farewell in a funny and emotional sequence. Despite each teacher wanting him to specialize in their field, Orc realizes that he doesn't belong to just one area. His dream is to leave the village and impregnate as many cute girls as possible, prompting him to follow a path beyond any single discipline. Quietly passing by his sleeping parents, Orc chooses not to disturb them as he departs, armed with a large bag of supplies. However, as he embarks on his journey, he is unexpectedly treated to a grand farewell, complete with fireworks lighting up the night sky. To his surprise, Orc sees his parents and teachers holding a sign that reads "Impregnate them all." It may not be a modest quest, but the message resonates with Orc, who promises to do his utmost to fulfill his dream. Among the well-wishers, Miley is the most delighted, as she realizes that her son is now set on the path she had been preparing him for all these years. With that, Orc leaves his Orc village behind and sets out on his global quest to encounter beautiful women from different tribes and win their hearts. The question remains, will Orc succeed in his journey, or will he be perceived as a random interloper by the women he encounters? Stay tuned for the next video to discover the twists and turns of Orc's adventures. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and tap the bell icon to receive notifications when part 2 is uploaded. See you in the next one.